Hey everybody, welcome back to Movies You Missed. This is episode 4. This is going to be a good one. I am excited as hell for this one because there were some good fucking movies that we watched.
Agreed. Man, I was so pumped for this episode. Thank you so much for your half of the episode this week. Your pick was, this is exactly what I was looking for and hoping we'd get to in this podcast, is movies that we haven't seen in a long time. We had seen them, but God, I can't even remember the last time I saw your movie. And
really?
Yeah, and just being, reminded of it and then given a reason to watch it again and gosh, it's a lot of memories, but also just such a good movie, right?
Oh yeah,
I hadn't seen it in
it.
a long time, and so just really stoked for this week's episode. And was so excited to talk about them with you too.
Definitely. I'm curious to hear what you think of that one because I don't think we've ever actually talked about it. And I know your pick. We'll get into why I've seen that movie multiple times, but not all the way through. Before we jump into our movies, did you happen to see anything new this week before we get into anything new?
Yeah, actually. So, I've started going back to movie theaters, which has been really fun.
Yay!
Yeah, for my own comfort level, I wait until the movie's been released for like a week or two, and usually go on a Wednesday afternoon, just because of pre-existing conditions. I'm really careful around COVID, and so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I still wear a mask and everything, but yeah, I mean, it's so great to go on a Wednesday afternoon. There's like 3 other people in the theater, and you can laugh as loud as you want, which is always great. So I've been a couple times over the last couple months, so starting to get back into it. My friend was visiting last weekend, and so she and I went and saw The Lost City, the new Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum movie.
Awesome. I want to see that so bad.
It's really fun.
It looks like it.
It's super silly, but very, very fun. Definitely reminiscent of Romancing the Stone, that 80s movie with Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas.
I remember that one, definitely.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it's who I was actually most blown away by is Daniel Radcliffe, the Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah.
He did a really good job, and he's definitely had, I think he's had a bit of a glow up. He's looking pretty good these days, and he was just really funny. And yeah, everybody was great in the movie, and Brad Pitt is a fantastic supporting character in the movie.
Awesome.
He's hilarious in it. So yeah, so that was really fun. It's a fun, silly movie. Recommend. And then also, a movie I saw a month or two ago, but it just came out on HBO Max, The Batman.
That's right, it's now on HBO Max.
It is, and so I saw it in theaters. So Batman is my all-time favorite comic book character and superhero, so, and I don't care how bad the movie is or how niche the comic book is, like, I'm gonna read it, I love it. And so yeah, I was so pumped for this movie, and it was fantastic and highly recommend. So anyway, if for our listeners, if you're comfortable going out to the movies, those are 2 movies you can see in theaters, and then if you're not yet, The Batman just dropped on HBO Max, so go ahead and watch it.
Awesome. I did want to see The Batman. I did not get around to it, and it's actually not playing here in Idaho anymore, so I will have to watch it on HBO Max. But they have it in 4K, so it'll be a good experience. I'll turn out all the lights.
Oh, nice. Definitely do it. And one of my favorite composers composes the music for it, Michael Giacchino. He did Lost and the new Star Trek movies. He's done a lot of work with J.J. Abrams, and he's a phenomenal composer. I'm a huge fan of his, and so he did just like the trailer music from that movie was so intense and good, and he did that. So yeah, I liked everything about that movie. It was great.
Awesome. I definitely will watch it. I'm a big Robert Pattinson fan these days.
He's kind of shed the Twilight persona, and
most definitely.
I know he worked really hard on that, and so yeah, he's a phenomenal actor. He does a great job in this movie, and it's a new twist on Batman from what we've seen in the last couple of iterations of it. So it was great. It was a fresher take on it. I liked it.
Sweet. Can't wait to watch it then. I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely do, and let me know what you think.
I will, indeed.
All right, great. So should we get into our movies?
We can, yes. Let's do it.
All right, and I think I go first this week.
You do.
So I know I was a little bit darker on the last couple of movies. I wanted to change it up a little bit this week and picked a bit lighter fare. This is a movie from 2007 called Stardust, and it actually is based on a book by Neil Gaiman. I'm a big fan of Gaiman's work, Good Omens, and American Gods, and he's done some fantastic stories and comics and everything, Sandman. But one of the very few instances you will ever hear me say that I preferred the movie over the book.
Really?
Yeah, so one of the interesting things is, and we'll get into it later, but Michelle Pfeiffer's character of the head witch, she's a very minor character in the book.
Oh.
And so just some of the directionality they went with the movie and what they highlighted in the storyline, I just enjoyed a lot more in the movie than I did in the book.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. I think that's only the second time ever I've said that about a book to movie adaptation.
Well, every now and then it is bound to happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. So this movie is an adventure fantasy movie. It takes place in 1800s England, and there is a wall that separates the magical kingdom of Stormhold and the rest of England. This boy travels across the wall and into the magical kingdom of Stormhold to prove his love to the town beauty, who is played by Sienna Miller.
Oh, yeah.
God, she sucks. She's such a stuck-up little brat.
Oh, you're talking about her character.
Yes.
I was like, I didn't think she was that bad.
No, sorry. No,
yeah, you're right.
The character of Victoria. The character, and yes, I know that we talk a lot about actors and he was so terrible in this movie. It's like no, his character was terrible. It's just easier to say it that way.
Right.
It's a lot of times interchangeable. But yes, so Sienna Miller is her character of Victoria. Gosh, she's such a brat in this movie.
Big time.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So this boy named Tristan goes across the wall to prove his love to her and goes on an adventure in the meantime. And what it makes this really interesting is, to prove his love, he goes to find a fallen star and is gonna grab the basically lump of rock that he believes this star is and bring it back to her. The problem is that this star, because this is a magical kingdom, is actually a person, and because of the star's magical properties, witches are also going after the star, and crown princes of the kingdom are also going after this. So this basically becomes a race and a chase involving all of these characters, and it's just great dynamic and really exciting and just very, very fun story that is told in this movie.
Big time. Yeah, very visually beautiful too.
Yes. Oh my gosh. They filmed in the UK and Iceland. And again, it's funny because I thought of you a little bit when I was watching this movie, because I was like, God, another movie we picked that's just so beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. All of the special effects too. Like I really liked the whole sequence with Peter O'Toole in the bed where he's, on his deathbed and talking to his sons about who's going to take over the kingdom. When he launches the necklace into space and it knocks the star out of orbit, and then that sequence of the star falling to Earth is really, really entertaining. I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also, Peter O'Toole, like, such a legend that they get to play the king of Stormhold. And so he's Lawrence in Lawrence of Arabia. And then some of our younger audience might recognize him as Priam from The King from Troy. He was Orlando Bloom's
That's right.
Father in Troy. So, but yes, legendary actor.
Big time. The big man.
Well, then they got some big names in this movie.
Oh, this is definitely a stacked cast film for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you have a stacked cast when one of the unseen actors, he just plays the narrator, is Ian McKellen, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I was trying to place the voice for the first 5 minutes. I know this voice.
Oh, yeah, it's such a good voice. Gandalf.
Yeah.
Magneto. Yeah, he's great. Love Ian McKellen. And it also has a really good message. I mean, he is trying to prove his love, and he's a real dork. Tristan, the main character, is such a dork when this movie starts, and Charlie Cox, the actor who plays Tristan, was picked for a very specific reason that I'll get to a little bit later. But one of the things that his dad says that I really enjoyed at the beginning of the film is he's just not doing well in town or in school, and his dad says, "You don't fit in with the popular crowd." I take that as a very good omen.
I remember that part, yeah.
And I just thought that was such a sweet thing to say to a young man or just a young person in general. Because, yeah, I mean, high school sucks for the majority of people, and growing up and being, trying to navigate social situations is really tough for the majority of people. And so just the reminder that if you're a little odd when you're growing up, it's usually a good sign.
Very true. Very true.
And I love the fact that Michelle Pfeiffer played a witch again, because one of my favorite roles of hers is The Witches of Eastwick, where she's also a witch.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen the Witches of Eastwick.
Oh, classic. Susan Sarandon, Cher, and then Jack Nicholson plays the devil, which is just
he plays the devil. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I've never seen it.
Oh, I might make you watch that at some point. It's pretty fantastic. It's great. And I loved, so she's this witch, and one of the reasons why, so Michelle Pfeiffer and her sisters need to go after the star is that stars provide long life or immortality. And so they're all old and decrepit in the very beginning of this film, and then so she takes the last star that they captured, and she does this transition that reminded me, it was basically the opposite transition of The Last Crusade in Indiana
100%.
Jones, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. I feel, now that you say that, I feel like they absolutely modeled that entire 360 or 180 shot based off of that entire sequence.
Yes, so it goes from her being like
that's funny,
decrepit, skeletal, bald, and then she grows into this beautiful woman because of Michelle Pfeiffer. I think she is one of the most beautiful older actresses in Hollywood right now, and
she's aging.
Oh my God, she is the model for aging. I want her skincare routine. I've always thought she was so gorgeous, and yes, as she's gotten older, she is just totally fine whining it. She's doing a great job.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I remember seeing the cover of Dangerous Minds VHS at a video store when I was growing up, and I just was like, it was her eyes that drew me in immediately, but then like her jawline and her hair, I was just like, good God, what is going on over here? Gorgeous. At like whatever, I think I was about 8 years old, and I was like, wow, Michelle Pfeiffer's.
And you're like, oh,
whoa,
I guess I'm straight.
Yeah, I was like, well, that's one indication for sure. But she definitely is aging. The moment when she like turns around, drops the robe, and her sisters are all rolling their eyes, and she looks at her ass, and she's just like, ooh, it's like, yeah. And then because she's in Maleficent, the sequel too, and she looks so good in that movie as well. And I think it also works that her eyes are so intense that she can play these witches, but keep these witches beautiful yet at the same time terrifying. Because her eyes are they're just so intense. So you can get lost in those things.
She's very scary in this movie for sure. And funny enough, she's had one of the longer marriages in Hollywood because she's been married to David E. Kelly for forever, 30 plus years.
David E. Kelly.
He's a show creator and showrunner. He's done The Practice, Ally McBeal. He did a ton of those like dramas in the 90s.
Did he do Big Little Lies? Was he the one that adapted Big Little Lies? Kelly.
He did do Big Little Lies.
Well, cool. Yeah. So David E. Kelly and Michelle Pfeiffer, I had no idea.
Yep. Long-standing Hollywood couple. Yeah, good for both of them. Damn.
But yeah, I beyond Michelle Pfeiffer, I definitely like, there's another actor in this movie. He's a character actor. His name's David Kelly, and he is the keeper of the wall. And I thought it was funny that in both instances where Tristan's father crosses the wall and Tristan crosses the wall, it happens almost identically the exact same way. And the cool thing about David Kelly, he's a character actor. He's Grandpa in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Tim Burton version. But he's also in this little Irish movie that I'm actually going to add to the list now. It's called Waking Ned Divine. And have you seen it?
My mom loves that movie.
Oh, so you've seen it then?
No, because I was a kid when it came out, but I remember her talking about it, and she said it was a really cute movie.
It came out like, I would say after 95, but before 2000. So it was around then, and I remember watching it with my family, and it was very, very entertaining. So I remember seeing him for the first time in that film. Then he just started popping up in all these other movies. But otherwise, David Kelly's great, Michelle Pfeiffer's awesome, and then we have a little cameo by Rupert Everett, which I thought was hysterical.
Because he's a prince in this movie with long hair, and all I can think of is Shrek.
Oh yeah,
all I can think of
he did a voice in Shrek.
That's all I can hear when he's there, and it's so cute. Of course, we were introduced to him from the gay best friend in my best friend's wedding,
right?
But so now that he's become famous from being Prince Charming in Shrek 2, and then he's a prince in this movie, I was like, oh my God, it's real life Prince Charming. I love that cameo. It was great.
It was funny.
This is definitely, I think a family-friendly movie. The only trigger warning I would say is that there are a couple of animal sacrifices, but nothing gory. It certainly happens. It's more than implied, but at the same time, nothing too bloody or gory. I think reminiscent. It definitely is in the same. If you enjoyed The Princess Bride, you should watch this movie. Is what I came away with.
That's a good comparison, I would say. Definitely.
Obviously,
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, The Princess Bride, of course, is in its league all of its own, but in terms of genre and who would watch this movie, I would say Princess Bride is comparable.
Very true, yeah.
And actually, speaking of that, because being family-oriented, so you notice how, so one of the plot points in this movie is that there are a bunch of sons of this king in Stormhold, Peter O'Toole, who dies, and all of these sons are competing to be the next king, and they're all fighting with each other. So one of them is killed part of the way through the movie. I don't know if you noticed, but his blood is blue.
I did notice that.
That was to ensure a PG-13 rating.
No kidding.
Yeah, so they did it. They did it as red in the movie, and during the filming, the special, the makeup effects were used and standard red blood. When it was being screened by the MPAA, they said, okay, this is almost a PG-13 movie. You just have to do a couple things, and one of them is make that scene less gruesome. They're like, oh, well, this is a magical kingdom. It could be whatever the hell color we want. Let's make it blue, and then it's not quote-unquote blood.
Right.
And so that made the MPAA happy.
Fascinating. I did wonder.
Yeah. And
so why is it blue? There's no indication that these guys are mythical creatures. Although, it is a mythical land, so
yeah, there's
why
a
not?
unicorn and witches and
That's
tons of
true.
things. Yeah.
Very true, actually. Yeah, you make a good point.
Very magical and fun. And again, stat cast. So one of two supporting characters who I really enjoyed. First, Ricky Gervais as the
oh yes,
basically broker of illicit goods, and he apparently ad-libbed just about all of his lines.
Did he really?
Which was,
That's
after
good.
I read it, I was like, yeah, that's not surprising at all. And so, that two-faced dog line he did with Michelle Pfeiffer, that's ad-libbed, which is great.
One looking right, one looking left. I'll get you what you need.
You'd better be telling the truth, you two-faced dog.
I can get you one of them, actually. Very good guard dogs. They can watch the back and the front door at the same time. Get anything you want.
And then my favorite character in this movie, who's just always going to have a special place in my heart, is Robert De Niro's Captain Shakespeare.
Oh, yeah.
He's
so good.
He's a pirate in this movie. And the funny thing is, one of the reasons he accepted this role was because of the fact that he turned down the role of Captain Barbossa in Pirates of the Caribbean.
No way.
Yeah.
De Niro turned down Barbossa?
Yes.
That would have been a fascinating casting. Johnny Depp and Robert De Niro on a pirate ship. It's 21 years since Curse of the Black Pearl came out, so I can't see it any other way now or think about it any other way other than Jeffrey Rush. Of course, I'm always like, I wonder who would have or who else, because reading trivia, is always like so-and-so was in consideration. You're like, oh, what would that have been like? In that pseudo universe, like, can we watch that version?
Yes.
And see what we get and see which one we like more. But then again, it's 21 years since Curse of the Black Pearl came out, so everybody is 21 years into loving the fact that Jeffrey Rush is Barbossa.
Yes.
But I did not know that De Niro turned that down, so that's hilarious to know, and I definitely love his character. Crack me the fuck up.
Yes, he was a great character in this movie, and I love how he embraced it, and definitely one of I think my favorite parts of the movie. Getting into other people in this movie, the main character, Tristan, is played by Charlie Cox, who was a relative unknown, was someone that Matthew Vaughn, the director, had to fight for because the studio wanted a big name to get some attention and audience attention from it. But he was pretty insistent, so they pushed Orlando Bloom and a couple other big name actors on him, and he said, I need this guy to be believable as a giant dork and failure at the beginning of this movie, and then turn into this this person who goes on an adventure and becomes brave. And a big name actor like Orlando Bloom, he said nobody would have believed him as this bumbling guy in the beginning of this movie.
I was going to say, Orlando Bloom's done that already.
That too, yeah. Speaking of Black Pearl. Charlie Cox actually then, from this movie, back in 2007, he has then become a somewhat big name because he is Daredevil in the Netflix Daredevil series.
Is that right?
He's very good in it. I highly recommend it. Definitely recommend it over the movie that we shouldn't ever talk about.
The Ben Affleck movie?
It's so bad.
Never saw it.
You can skip it. It's fine.
I likely will at this point.
Yeah, the only thing that was worth watching about it was the chemistry between him and Jennifer Gardner. But now that they're divorced, that's just sad. So. He also, one you'll recognize him as anyone who's seen the recent Spider-Man movie No Way Home. in one of the alternate realities and or one of the cameos that happens is he's Daredevil and Spider-Man goes and talks to him. And
Really?
Yeah, he makes a small cameo. He's in the Marvel universe because Daredevil is Marvel.
I saw No Way Home, and I don't remember Daredevil.
Yeah, Tom Holland went to him, and because they're both in New York, and they had a very brief scene together. It was cool. It was very cool. Okay, so back, we got on a tangent on Marvel. So who else is in this movie? Claire Danes. She's in Homeland. She was in Terminator 3, My So-Called Life back in the day. That's really what got her famous. And then the other couple of people I want to talk about. This is Henry Cavill at his ugliest. He is such... God, he's such a weasel in this movie in every sense of the word.
Big time. Humphrey.
Yeah. So Henry Cavill, of course, is the new Superman. He's a CIA agent in Mission Impossible.
Yes, he is.
The newer Mission Impossible, and famously when he cocks his arms in the bathroom fight scene, and he's like, it's so fucking cool. One of my favorite actors, I have a lot of favorites, I know, but an actor who I really, really enjoy watching and all the things he does is Mark Strong. I just think he's so fucking cool in everything he does. He's Septimus in this movie.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he is. He's great.
So he's Merlin in The Kingsman. He's the villain in Shazam.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite of his so far, or one of my favorites, is he's Lord Blackwood in the Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr. He's the bad guy in the first Sherlock Holmes movie, and he's great in that. And so, yeah, he just has this really cool presence, really cool voice, and I've just really enjoyed just about everything he's done, and he's in this movie too, which was a lot of fun. Michelle Pfeiffer, who we talked about, she was Catwoman in Batman Returns. So fucking cool in that movie. God, she was...
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about, favorites of different iterations. She's still my favorite Catwoman.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And Dangerous Minds, as you mentioned.
Dangerous Minds and One Fine Day with George Clooney.
Oh my God.
Lest we forget.
I think
one of the best 90s.
90s rom-com.
One
90s
Fine
rom-com.
Day.
Oh my gosh.
Man. I do remember One Fine Day quite a bit. But I always liked watching One Fine Day because I always thought that George Clooney was lucky to, hang out with Michelle Pfeiffer as much as he did.
I mean, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that.
Not at all.
So the last thing I want to talk about with this movie is that Matthew Vaughn directed this movie, and Neil Gaiman specifically gave the rights of this book to him after a couple of meetings and didn't charge him anything because originally Miramax had rights to this movie and then it expired. And after talking to a couple people in Hollywood, Neil Gaiman really enjoyed the meetings he had with Matthew Vaughn, and also just he seemed like he could be a man of his word, which he said was really important to him with his story. So that's why he gave the rights to Matthew Vaughn. And
Very cool.
Yeah, so Matthew Vaughn is actually a pretty cool director. Not super well known yet, but he's done, funny enough, The Kingsman. So
yes,
he'd worked with Mark Strong before. He also directed X-Men First Class, which I think is an exceptional movie.
I very much enjoy that one.
He directed Kick-Ass.
Yeah, Kick-Ass. It's not bad.
And then he also directed Layer Cake, which is...
Never saw it.
Oh, okay, so that is one of the earlier Daniel Craig credits. Sienna Miller's in it too, actually, as his love interest. It's an interesting movie. It didn't get a ton of traction. It was super underrated, but I thought it was pretty well done. It's definitely spoken of as a good movie in general. So that was one of Daniel Craig's earlier credits too, which I thought was interesting.
I actually always wanted to see Layer Cake. It looked like a lot of fun, and I remember seeing the trailer for Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and I thought they were directed by the same guy at the time. But now that I know Matthew Vaughn was behind Layer Cake and Guy Ritchie was behind the other, I'll have to check out Layer Cake.
Yeah, give it a watch. Let me know what you think.
Give it a watch.
So I know this was my pick this week, and I was stoked that you said you had seen it before this week's episode, but I'm really curious to get your take on it too.
Okay, so yeah, Stardust, my wife tried to get me to watch with her many, many years ago when we first started dating and living together. She put it on as one of her favorite movies, so of course I was excited. I ended up falling asleep about an hour into it, and we never finished it at that time. Fast forward a couple of years later. Overall, long story short, I've probably seen the movie from beginning to an hour and 15 minutes in 5 or 6 times because I always tend to fall asleep.
That's just not an indicator For
It's
our
not.
audience, this is not an indicator of the movie's quality.
But the problem is, it's not because I'm not enjoying the movie. I'm just tired. It really is what it is. You know, I sit down to watch this movie either after 8 or after 9 o'clock at night, and it's a 2-hour movie, which is fine. I don't mind movies 2 hours plus. I just end up falling asleep. I get comfortable on the couch, etc. So I put it on the other night after being at the bar for a while. Where I work.
Yeah,
and
let's qualify that statement for our audience.
I was at the bar for a while where I work, and I got home, put it on. I made it to about an hour and 20 minutes, and I started to nod off. And my wife started to scream at me that I'm not going to make it for like the 5th time through Stardust. So I'm like, no, I'm going to finish it. So I push play, and I start nodding off maybe another 7 minutes later, and she yells at me again, and she turns the movie off, and I'm like, no. She goes, nope, you're not going to finish it. You're just going to have to do your episode without having finished this movie, and you're just going to have to figure out how it ends on your own.
Amy's going to be a guest host this week because you haven't seen
She's
the movie.
going to have to be. I know. So I woke up on Sunday while she was finishing up Easter bakings, and I watched it from beginning to end without interruptions, without falling asleep, without nodding off. And I loved it. And I like I said, I always was enjoying it. It just happened to be late at night, and maybe alcohol was involved too, so I was already a little sleepier.
Well, and I mean, you'd had a lot of hours on set when you'd been trying to watch it in the beginning, right?
Yeah. Back in the day, the first few times I had definitely been on set for a long time, and we either tried to watch it on a Thursday night or like a Saturday night after we had been out for the day. So again, this is my first time from beginning to end watching it without any interruptions, and I really enjoyed it. I laughed a lot, and I definitely got a little choked up at a few moments because it's definitely a very sweet story. Not only because of Tristan's love for little bratty brat, but, you know, things that develop throughout the movie and certain characters that come in and out and sacrifices that are made for each other. And so the cool thing about this movie is I like that there's multiple things going on to achieve like that, you know, quote unquote common goal. They're all going after the star. So it's a great story. And the book too, I would think, because the book, you, as much as you enjoy the book, you enjoy the movie because you actually got to see the book come to life.
Yes.
And that's one thing that I really like when books actually are as faithful. Again, I haven't read the book, but is it pretty faithful regardless of the time that Michelle Pfeiffer's character is not in the book?
It is pretty faithful to the book. I would say I enjoy the pacing in the movie a bit better than the book.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm really glad we finally got you to finish it. I should
me too.
send Amy a congratulations. I love that this was one of her favorite movies, too.
Oh, yeah, she definitely, yeah. I asked her if she wanted to watch it with me, and you know what she said? Why, so you can fall asleep again? Like, no, I'm not going to fall asleep.
Well deserved.
Sure enough.
Well deserved.
She joined me after an hour, and she was like, oh, you haven't fallen asleep? I'm like, no, I haven't. And then she sat down, and I started to nod off 20 minutes later. I don't know what happened.
Oh my God. Well, this is a great movie from beginning to end, we promise.
It is.
And it didn't do that great in the box office. It had a budget of $70 million, and it made $38 million domestically in the U.S. and
Ouch.
137 million globally. So it wasn't a huge loss. It wasn't a flop, but it wasn't super successful either. And so kind of a bummer. I was pretty disappointed in that, and I feel bad for people who worked on the movie because I do think it is high quality. I do think it's really great. It just didn't get the traction that I think it deserved, to be totally honest. So it's definitely worth a watch. And the nice thing is it's currently streaming on Netflix in the US, so easy.
It's been on Netflix for a while now.
It has been, yeah, and so pretty easy to catch this film.
Absolutely. And V, would you watch this with your grandmother?
Oh, great question. I absolutely would. And I would actually watch this with one, if not both, of my nieces who are 10 and 12.
Oh, cool.
I think just kind of couple scenes with the witches are a little bit creepy, maybe for my 10-year-old niece, but definitely for young teenagers, it's totally appropriate, and I think they would really enjoy it.
Definitely. It holds true to the PG-13 rating.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
Agreed indeed.
Cool. Okay, so because of this pick this week, what we try to do for our show is to either pick somewhat similar in genre movies or get inspired by one of the actors in either John's pick or mine to match up with the second host pick. So what I mean by that is last week, if you caught our episode, we had Constantine that had Rachel Weisz in it, and then we also had The Fountain that had Rachel Weisz, and that was a kind of our connection. And so this week, we were similarly inspired, and so with Claire Danes, she is also in John's pick. John, you want to tell the audience what movie we watched for you this week?
Oh, do I ever? Yes. We did the fantastic 1996 Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes fronted Romeo and Juliet.
Classic.
Round of applause, please.
Oh my gosh.
All right, you may sit down. You may sit down.
So good.
You may sit down. No, this film is a standing ovation movie every time it ends for me. I cannot get enough of this movie. I actually just watched it in February when I was in lockdown when I had COVID. It was one of the last ones I watched in my COVID week of movie watching, and I was very glad to be able to pick it again because it is truly an addiction movie. Like, it is so much fun to watch, and it's so gut-wrenching, and it's so intense. I cry every time I watch it. Over the last 5 years, I've cried watching this movie. I just love the frenetic energy of it all. I love the casting. I love the soundtrack. I love the cinematography, and the fact that it's by Baz Luhrmann. It just makes it all even a little bit better. Just a phenomenal film from, again, beginning to end, just wonderful. All over the place.
This is an exceptionally crafted movie.
Oh, yeah.
You know, some movies you'll watch and it's an actor who carries the movie, or it's a storyline that is just so interesting or exceptional, or, you know, CGI or what have you. This movie was crafted by Baz Luhrmann. So well done. You can tell he was detail-oriented in every aspect of creating this. I would say this is a piece of art.
Oh, absolutely.
Classic story, but you want to tell people kind of about this movie?
Sure. Very classic story. As we all know, Romeo and Juliet, William Shakespeare, back in the day. This film is actually uses the original dialogue from the Shakespeare play, which is awesome. And it's set in a contemporary Verona, and that's also awesome.
Yes, the mashup is fantastic. I mean, this is kind of in the same vein as Hamilton, right? I mean, where you take two wildly different genre and put it to historical context. So
very true, yeah.
They have guns, they have cars,
yeah.
They are in a city. Yeah, it's a very, very cool mashup.
It really is, and it all works out beautifully too. It's such a flawless take on it. Everything that is on screen is entertaining to watch, from the opening to the final words of dialogue spoken in the entire film, and the choices of music and the colors and everything. It is just, regardless of what time of day it is just like every frame is gorgeous. Again, it's Romeo and Juliet. It's not like we don't know what's going to happen to these people.
I think this is the one movie we could probably spoil because we're not spoiling it.
Exactly.
We can talk about the end and it's not
everybody
a spoiler.
that dies, yeah, you know from high school that Mercutio dies and that Tybalt dies and, you know, all this stuff. But the way it's done in this movie is just so badass. And like, even, I'm not saying like the suicide at the end is badass, but it's just like, it's done so well. And when she breaks down after he dies, when they're still in the church, is like
heart-wrenching,
intense. Yeah, like every time I get chills, I'm getting them now. And when oh god, she runs to the priest and she like points the gun at her head, I just start getting choked up. I'm just like, my gosh, will there ever be a better Romeo and Juliet? And I'm gonna tell you, there probably will not be, and that everybody is so good in this movie. Everybody.
I forgot how incredible John Leguizamo is in this movie.
Oh man, so fantastic as Tybalt. So good, so intimidating.
Oh man, when the close-up, when he's like, "Thou art a villain," and just the way he says it, the framing is, oh god, everything about that. He's so good in this movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's good, and obviously DeCap is great, and Claire Danes is great. That's the other thing, though. This is a movie where supporting cast is as good as the stars.
Totally agree.
Like,
totally agree.
Everybody that is around them, down to Jesse Bradford.
Yeah.
is awesome. And nothing against Jesse Bradford, nothing at all. I think he has 2 sentences, but they're both so intense, and he nails them.
Yeah.
But beyond John Leguizamo, who kills it as Tybalt, we have Harold Perrineau as Mercutio, who is
so cool.
he is the Mercutio. There will never be a better Mercutio.
No.
In my opinion, how can you top that performance? Especially not even at the party, but the whole thing on the beach thing with Tybalt. You know, when Tybalt slays Mercutio, the whole plague on your houses. It's just every time it's just like, oh God, it's so intense. It's so beautiful. You just can't look away. You can't look away from the mayhem. And that's the other thing is this is just like you said, you texted me about my next week's choice, how it's manic. Romeo and Juliet is manic.
It's very fast paced, yes.
Yeah.
It is very intense, but the thing I like about it is that it's not overdone, and there's this fine line that you toe this line of being too much or too overacted and just intense enough. And I mean, come on, the line you have to toe between Shakespearean English and putting it in present day 90s, like just that alone, like how do you craft that well enough to make it so it's just not ludicrous?
Exactly. And I remember thinking that when I first saw it come out in 1996. Granted, we'll get into what films came out in 1996 because 1996 was a true film year. I mean, I was looking through the top 100 and I'm like, oh my God, that came out that year? Oh my God, that came out that year?
Really? Oh, that might give 94 a run for its money then. Interesting.
It definitely gives... The thing about the 90s, V, from like 1990 to 1999, that was the decade of things that people had never seen before and just phenomenal movies. But anyway, I remember seeing this trailer for Romeo and Juliet in the movie theater and being like, okay, that's stupid. Like, what is Leonardo DiCaprio doing as... Well, of course it's going to be Leonardo DiCaprio. Who else would... And, you know, then I'm like, Claire Danes, I don't even know who that is. I didn't even want to see the movie. I think I saw it finally when it was... I probably saw it the first time in like 1999, and I was just like, oh, God, I really screwed up by not seeing this in theaters.
That's interesting you say I don't even know who that is when you're talking about Claire Danes, because yes, she was up and coming when this role came about, and Leo actually fought for her to win the role of Juliet because she impressed him so much with not only her line delivery but also the fact that she looked him in the eye when they were doing screen tests together, and so he fought to have her even though she was a relatively quote unquote no name. And interesting tidbit, I actually went camping with her parents when I was in LA. We had mutual friends and went on a camping trip together, and they're super chill, and it was only after hanging out with them like the first evening that they're like, oh yeah, and Claire did this and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, is that your daughter? They're like, yeah, she's in a movie, blah blah blah. I'm like, is your daughter Claire Danes? They're like, yeah. I was like, cool, all right. I love having those like very casual conversations and then finding out connections about you, like, oh, I didn't know you won a Nobel Prize. I'm glad I was super cool for the first like 30 minutes we've been talking.
Exactly. Or you're already like shit-faced at the bar, and then they're like, yeah, you know, when I discovered the theory of relativity or some shit, and you're like, oh, wonderful. I can tie my shoes.
My friend's grandfather actually did go to school where Einstein was teaching, and they were friends, went to ice cream all the time.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so the other person you just because you had just talked about him, not to derail what you're saying, but Harold Perrineau, I love him. He's so cool.
Yeah,
so
he's
Walt's dad in Lost. He's Link, the new driver in the last two Matrix movies. And
oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's right. No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh. So going back to
no,
not at all. Going back to a little bit about the production of the movie, it was nominated for one Oscar for Best Art Direction. During production, their key hairstylist was kidnapped.
What?
Yeah.
They were filming
their
in
key
Mexico?
hairstylist in Mexico.
Fuck.
Yeah, they got kidnapped and was held for a ransom of $300, and Baz Luhrmann paid the ransom to get the key hairstylist back.
Oh my God, that's
and as
like
far as I know,
and terrible at the same time.
Yeah, as far as I know, Key's hairstylist had to finish the project because that's how the entertainment industry is. Oh, you got kidnapped? Well, get your ass back to
Tough
work.
shit. You won't work again if you don't come back.
Yeah, and I can't imagine Baz Luhrmann saying that, but one of his producers probably did.
We're not paying you for the days you missed.
Yeah, that's the entertainment industry in a nutshell.
It is.
For you. For anybody that really thinks about getting into it, think really, really hard about it. One of my favorite things actually to find out is one of my favorite sequences is the gas station brawl in the beginning of the movie. So I always liked how Leguizamo gets introduced in this movie as Tybalt. He's like, peace. I hate the word. You know, it's like, oh man.
So good.
What art thou drawn among these heartless hinds? Turn thee Benvolio, and look upon thy death.
I do but keep the peace. Put up thy sword. Or manage to part these men with me.
Peace. Peace. I hate the word. As I hate hell, all Montagues, and thee.
So awesome. That whole sequence took 7 days to shoot, and with 2 days of pickup shoots. So that was a 9-day shoot on just the sequence at the gas station after Jamie Kennedy's character bites his thumb at them. But with Baz Luhrmann, he gets so much coverage.
Yeah.
I think the shooting schedule on Moulin Rouge was over 150 days because of the amount of coverage that he was getting, which, again, Moulin Rouge is cut together beautifully.
Yes.
So going back to Romeo and Juliet, another thing with Leguizamo's character and the way that he handles his guns is he wanted to do something new with it. He adopted a bit of a flamenco-style choreography with choreographer John O'Connell, and he did that because he wanted to adopt a similar swordplay stance while shooting his guns. So I thought that was actually pretty cool because John Leguizamo really likes to dig deep into the characters that he's playing and really kind of gives something new to each character that he portrays on screen.
I love how in this movie every gun is named.
So awesome.
Oh my god, so there's dagger, there's rapier, there's longsword, and it's so cool how they mash up the original with modern times.
It really is so awesome.
Similar to, can we just talk about Leonardo's intro, by the way? How they introduce him in the beginning of this movie is such a great intro and definitely legendary now. And how he said, he's hiding in the sycamore grove, and which is the text of William Shakespeare. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
But I caught it this time, the arch of that rundown, broken theater that's been abandoned, it literally says Sycamore Grove on it.
Right.
And then they're partying on the beach and it says the Globe Theater right behind them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, that's great.
Absolutely, yeah. And going with the Sycamore Grove and the Globe Theater, every sign in the film has a significance of some kind. Like add more fuel to your fire. Thunder,
bullets.
Thunder bullet. Yeah, that's what it was. I couldn't get it out of my damn mouth. But there's another thing that I actually found interesting about one of the actors in this movie, Pete Postlethwaite. We all know him as rest in peace. Mm-hmm. He was the priest in Dragonheart. He's now the priest in Romeo and Juliet. He's the dying father in Inception. He is the florist in Ben Affleck's The Town. And I mean, just an array of credits. He's the
lawyer in The Usual Suspects.
That's right. Oh my gosh.
Kobayashi.
Yes. Oh yes. Before You Do Me In. Yes, that's right. Oh wow. I forgot he was in The Usual Suspects. So Shakespeare wrote in a specific pentameter, and it was called, I think I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, but it's iambic pentameter.
You pronounced it
so
right.
That's correct. Yeah, so apparently Pete Postlethwaite is the only actor that was on set that could speak in that pentameter.
Oh, really?
So when he was speaking in the proper way that Shakespeare wrote it.
Nice.
Which I thought was really badass. Yeah. And again, it's Pete Postlethwaite, so I was like, couldn't expect anything other than that.
You need
Just
to
like
bring up
beauty.
I would assume, your favorite role of his when he's in The Lost World.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's such a dick in that movie.
He really is. Roland, that's right, yes.
He's a trophy hunter in Jurassic Park, The Lost World. Oh, he's such a jerk.
That's right. Carnivores hunt on game trails. You want to set a base camp or a buffet? Yes, that's right. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that was, I guess that's kind of almost all of it. Oh, another thing. Jamie Kennedy in this movie, his black eye was real.
Oh, really?
Apparently, he had just a few days before production started gotten into a bar fight in Mexico City. And when Baz Luhrmann saw it, he said not to cover it up and was like, that's going to work out for your character very well.
It really did, let's be honest. His character was a spaz.
Oh, so crazy. I will bite my thumb at them, and it's a disgrace to them if they choose to bear it.
Yeah.
So good.
So good. So, again, I have to thank you for giving me an opportunity to watch this movie again. It'd been a minute. It'd been a little bit. And so it's so nice to watch it again, especially because the first time I watched it, I was a teenager, and then I watched it a couple times in my 20s, and now there's so many little tidbits that I pick up on, and of course now they look really young.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. But I just loved, as we talked about, all these little details that Baz put in there were so great. And one of the things that I want to talk about is Paul Rudd.
Oh yeah, as Paris.
Who I love the ongoing joke that man doesn't age, because it's true. He's aging very, very well. And I think
He's the new Dick Clark.
he is. And the thing I thought of when I was watching this movie yesterday was he's aging like that planet in Interstellar, where an hour his time is like 7 years for us. And that's why he's aging so well. 'Cause, yeah, that man, oh my gosh, it's so funny how it's kind of like the running joke for all people now. But can I just reiterate, because I've always thought this, and now watching this movie again, it was just reminded, Juliet's mother sucks so hard.
Oh man,
She's such a
definitely.
bitch. I
Yeah,
hate
she's
her.
real bad.
Oh God, she's awful. I like the actress. She's in a couple movies I've seen before.
She was very good, yeah, but you definitely hate her.
Yeah.
And Paul Sorvino too.
Oh
Oof.
yeah, Paul Sorvino's great, and God, Brian Dennehy is Romeo's dad. This again, another stacked cast, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Even Emmett Walsh is in this movie. He's a character actor. He was in Blade Runner. He was in Christmas with the Cranks. If you see a picture of him, you'd be like, oh, yeah.
Okay.
I ended up working with him on a Funny or Die project years ago, and he brought everybody on set a penny.
Oh, nice.
Like a freshly minted penny. Yeah, he's like, here's a penny for you. I'm like,
Aw.
thank you, Mr. Emmett Walsh.
That's cool.
So yeah, very, very cool that Paul Rudd is in this film, because on his final day of shooting, DiCaprio decided to take him out and celebrate his wrapping of the film. And DiCaprio started to confide in Mr. Paul Rudd about a studio project that he was being considered for. Paul Rudd was very encouraging and enthusiastic about DiCaprio taking that role, and later on we would learn that film would go on to win Best Picture and several other Academy Awards, including many technical awards. That film was Titanic. And the reason why Paul Rudd encouraged him so much was because Paul Rudd's father was a Titanic history expert. So I think we can all thank Paul Rudd for the enthusiasm and encouragement that he threw towards Leonardo DiCaprio to take that film, because Titanic is one of the greatest films on the planet.
That's so dope. I love it.
Yeah, that's Romeo and Juliet. I mean, 1996, it came out up against a whole bunch of different movies. I actually did not get the actual date that it was released in 96. Let me pull that up.
So one of the things that always is just so heart-wrenching about this movie, though, is there are so many opportunities to change fate.
Oh, yeah.
To change the ending of this movie, and every little one, like any one of them would have done it, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%.
And, I was watching again, I was like, why the hell isn't the priest just camping out at Juliet's tomb? What the fuck? Like, I was so mad last night. Like, why? And then, of course, reminding myself that if this was a happy ending, it would be like every other rom-com,
Right.
and it wouldn't be remembered 500 years later like it is today.
No, not at all. Yeah, every time I watch it too, I'm like, come on, Juliet, wake up quicker.
I know,
But, it's like, he's going to swallow the poison, and then
so
she's going to
heartbreaking.
do what she does. But yeah, it's definitely one of those movies that you really wish the outcome would be different, but the reason why you keep coming back is because it's not.
That's a great way to put it. Great way to put it.
And it really didn't have a crazy budget. It had a $14.5 million budget. So
What?
For 1996, and for being a location shoot, and again, DiCaprio was still up and coming, and
Right.
Leguizamo had been around for a minute, but Paul Sorvino and Brian Dennehy, I would imagine, were probably two of the bigger names, along with Pete Postlethwaite at the time. In the 90s.
That's true. Like, who is the biggest cost? I can't even think of who would be
I wouldn't.
the
I'm
most
not sure.
expensive actor in this movie. Probably Brian Dennehy.
It's
Probably?
possible that it was. Yeah,
I
but
mean,
again,
Leo probably wasn't commanding that big of a salary yet. Probably
not. No,
like
a couple million though.
Yeah, I would think like 5 maybe at that point. Maybe.
It's possible. Yeah, I don't know.
That's so interesting. Yeah, that's. I would think that just the editing alone and the music licensing. Gosh,
Which again, that could have been where a lot of it went. It's always
I'm just
possible.
shocked that it was only 14. That's incredible.
Yeah, and they made a worldwide gross of 147 million, so they definitely made their money back by a wide margin.
By a little bit, yeah.
Which is great, because it deserved it. And I remember, like I said, I always wish I had actually seen it in theaters. And if it ever does get re-released again, I will absolutely go see it in theaters again, because that deserves to be seen on the theaters. And the way that it's, again, just the way it's shot, the grittiness of it, and the fact that you can see some of the film scratches still on the DVD transfer is awesome. I like that.
Oh, that's cool.
So one of my favorite segments on our show is to get V to guess what the number one movie of the year of the movie that I picked was. So I think you'll get this one, and I'm only going to give you like 2 hints, but I'm not going to give you any of the actors, because if I give you any actor, it's going to give it away.
Okay.
So this movie was number one in 1996, coming in with 306 million throughout the year. It was set on planet Earth and in space, and that is your hint.
On Earth and in space?
And in space. Yep.
Okay. 96. Welcome to Earth.
Yes, Independence Day. The number one film of 1996. Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin's Independence Day.
Will Smith owned the 90s.
Yeah, pretty much all the 90s was Will Smith.
Oh, you
100%.
love
Yeah,
that. Isn't
Bad
that one of
Boys.
your all-time favorite movies?
It is.
Independence Day?
Independent May, yep. It is Independence Day is, yes, it's literally my number 2. It fights for the number 1 every time I watch it with Jurassic Park, but Jurassic Park will always be number 1. That's my, that begins my top 5 favorite movies is Independence Day and Jurassic Park. And number 2, I'm going to have you guess as well.
Okay.
And it was a favorite that is quoted, and I'm going to tell you one actor that's in it, Bill Paxton.
96.
Rest in peace.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I was on a flight with Bill Paxton.
Really?
Yeah, from the Cannes Film Festival.
Oh, wow.
And we flew back together, and Donatella Versace was on the flight too, actually.
No kidding.
Yeah. Bill Paxton, rest in peace, man. He's so cool. And so I
Awesome.
talked to him a little bit, and then we walked to the baggage claim together. And so I was just telling him, he was like, well, what are you doing in Europe? Why are you coming back? And I said, well, I was at the Cannes Film Festival. And I was like, were you there? And he's like, no. I was doing some press stuff in London for Big Love. So I was back
cool.
when he was in Big Love, but just like the nicest guy. And I was like, I have to tell you, I'm a huge fan of your work. I've loved so much that you've done, especially Aliens and True Lies.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I'll let you get your bags and I'll leave you to it, but it was really nice chatting with you. And he's like, yeah, you too, take care. And he's just like so chill. And I obviously
It's awesome.
didn't want to bring too much attention to him because I didn't want him to get like mobbed or whatever. So we just like chatted while we walked and stuff and to the
Very
baggage
cool.
claim. But he was a super nice guy. I was really sad when he died.
Yeah, that was a sad day.
Some of his quotes in True Lies and Aliens, my sisters and I quoted to each other all the time. Game over, man. Game over. Oh, God. Just classic. Anyway, so 96, Bill Paxton. It's Twister.
It is Twister.
Yes, I'm getting better at this game. I knew I would. I said I would. I
Yeah.
promised I would.
That was number 2 of 1996, the entire year. Number 2, Twister.
I didn't know it made that much money.
I know. I actually didn't either. I saw it in theaters, and it was a packed theater, and it had already been out for a while, too.
Okay.
And that's the thing, too. Again, Vee about the 90s. Movies lasted in theaters because
True.
there wasn't streaming for people to sit at home and
Right.
watch. So movies are very, very seldom going to anymore these days. It sucks. But number 3 was Mission Impossible. Number 4 was The Rock. And number 5 was the Eddie Murphy remake of The Nutty Professor.
That was a good year.
A good year. Oh, yeah. I'm not done yet. Number 34 was Romeo and Juliet, my pick. Number 60 was Mars Attacks. Number 74 was Scream. Number 32 was Toy Story. And number 95 was the masterpiece. Absolute masterpiece. Shaquille O'Neal fronted Kazam. It made it to the top 100 of 1996.
Oh, my God.
Kazam! I actually watched
believe
it
it
when it
made
was
it
on
to
Disney Plus last year. It does not hold up for
of
even
course
5
not.
minutes.
But
But Twister does, and so does Independence Day, as does Mission Impossible and The Rock and Nutty Professor.
I love Philip Seymour Hoffman in Twister.
Yeah, so good. Another rest in peace.
Another rest in peace.
Maybe we'll do an episode of rest in peace types.
Oh, I like that idea. Oh,
Memorialize them.
I love that idea. I'm down. I'm totally down.
Sweet.
Cool. Where can you watch Romeo and Juliet, John?
Romeo and Juliet is currently on HBO Max. I watched my DVD copy. You can definitely still buy it on DVD, or you can very likely rent it or stream it, buy it on iTunes and any one of those that are available for purchase and available for stream.
Yeah, I mean, for our movies this week, if you don't have Netflix or HBO, they are rentable for like $3.99 on most streaming services.
Indeed they are.
All right, here comes the question: would you watch this with your grandma?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Would you?
But I don't know
watch
if,
it with
Grandma
your-
would actually watch this one.
Really? Did we find? Wait. Okay, we finally found a movie that your grandma wouldn't watch with you.
Probably.
Only took a couple
I'm
episodes.
not sure if she truly would be like, oh yeah, let's sit down and watch Romeo and Juliet. My grandma likes to watch horror movies and like kind of weird stuff, and I
need to meet your
honestly don't know
grandma.
what. Yeah, I don't know what her opinion on Shakespeare is, to be honest with you. I'm going over there in the next few days to watch some horror movie about Jack the Ripper that gets not reincarnated, but like comes back to life or something like that in the 90s. I've never heard of it, so my grandma's like, I recorded this movie. I'm like, great, I'll come watch it with you. Check it out.
Cool. Oh, man.
Yeah.
So to round that out, though, don't watch this with your young kids. This is a very violent movie. This has a lot of really heavy topics, including completing suicide. And so
Yeah.
it is a beautiful movie. I do think that like older teenagers should totally watch this movie, especially because it is in Elizabethan English and it's true to William Shakespeare. I think that's really interesting and cool.
Definitely.
And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely think this is worth watching with several different types of family members, but because of the violence in it, they don't watch it with kids.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, cool. All right. Any other news updates? I think we're good.
I will have seen 2 new movies by the time we record next week. So
Oh, sweet. I will make sure and remember to
Yeah.
ask you about them then and see if you liked any of them.
one of them I already am planning to see twice. So
Oh, shit. That's that's confidence right there.
well, yeah. Yep. I'm going on Friday because I have to see it by myself first. And if I don't like it, I'm still going to go see it a second time because I'm going to see it with a beer tender friend of mine.
Okay.
And I've never been to the movies with her, so I don't know if she's going to be on her cell phone, if she likes to talk.
That is a
So,
good friendship test right there, or relationship test. How you watch movies is
with
important.
me in particular.
Yes, yeah.
My parents attacked me on Easter about it because I was like, yeah, Amy doesn't like to go to the movies. And they were like, you're no fun to go to the movies with. I'm like, yes, I am. I shut everybody up. Come on now.
See, yeah, I mean, I like going to the movies with you, but you and I watch it
Yeah.
in the same style, so that's why.
Very
we
true.
both are like,
Very
shut
true.
the fuck up.
Exactly.
Yeah, no. Okay, well then, let's leave it there. I like the tease.
Yeah.
Let's definitely talk about those movies next week. And until then, I think the last thing we need to say...
Film is definitely a form of art, and in art, every opinion is valid, except if you think...
The 50 Shades franchise does a good job of depicting BDSM relationships. Or anything, for that matter.
Well, I've never seen or read a page or seen a minute of the movies, so I will take your word for it.
Be proud of that.
I
Yeah.
am, actually.
Given-
I rather am.
I had to pick it this week, given our last film was, star-crossed lovers, a very difficult relationship. I was like, okay, well, at least this this is actually a healthier relationship than 50 Shades.
Very true.
Thanks, everyone, for listening in. Please rate, review, subscribe. Even if you don't like writing reviews, that's okay. Just click on the stars and give us a rating and to click subscribe. That really, really helps our visibility and helps us get this podcast off the ground. So please do that. And you can also follow all of our social media at Movies You Missed Pod, including moviesyoumissedpod@gmail.com for any suggestions on movies we should be covering.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually interested if anybody's going to send us any suggestions. That'd be great.
So let's, yes, please feel free to reach out to us, give us suggestions, and until next week, thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you, guys. See you next time.